It's July 14th, 1518. Strasbourg is hot, cramped, and already exhausted from hard times. And on a narrow cobblestone street outside her half-timbered home, a woman steps out, Frau Trophäa, and she starts to dance. No music, no celebration, no crowd cheering her on, just dancing. At first, it's confusing. Then it becomes disturbing, because she doesn't stop. She dances all day until she collapses, and then, incredibly, she starts again. Her feet swell, they bleed, people beg her to quit. She can't. And then comes the part that should not happen in real life. Other people join her. By the end of the week, accounts describe over 30 moving too. Within a month, reports describe a crowd so large it's being measured in the hundreds, often cited around 400 at its peak. So, the question is, what do you do when your town catches something that makes you dance until you drop? Welcome back to the channel, where history isn't just facts, it's people living through things so strange they sound fictional. Today we're diving into the dancing plague of 1518 in Strasbourg. What happened, why the city reacted the way it did, and the most credible explanations historians take seriously. And stay to the end, because the solution Strasbourg tried is so wild, it sounds like a joke. Except they meant it. Strasbourg in 1518 was a city in the Holy Roman Empire. Busy streets, trade, and tight neighborhoods. But it wasn't a carefree place. The region had been hammered by hardship. Multiple terrible harvests, sky-high grain prices, and recurring disease. People were under intense strain, and fear had a way of soaking into everything. Imagine a community already stressed to the edge. Everyone's tired, everyone's hungry, everyone's tense. And then your neighbor walks outside and begins to dance like something invisible grabbed the strings of her body. On July 14th, Frau Trophäa is reportedly seized by spasmodic, convulsive movement and continues dancing uncontrollably until she collapses. Her husband begs her to stop. Others try to help. But the next day she's dancing again on swollen, bloody feet. This is where the story turns from one person in crisis to something is happening to the whole town. Because people gather to watch, and then some of them start moving too. Not as a celebration, more like the idea of it gets under their skin. By the end of the week, over 30 others have joined. Now, Strasbourg doesn't just have a strange woman dancing in the street. Strasbourg has a contagion of motion. As days pass, the number grows. Reports describe dozens, then many more. Within a month, some accounts describe the crowd reaching around 400 people. And this is where I want to be careful, because the internet loves the most extreme version of this story. You'll often hear clean, exact claims about how many people died per day. But the reality is more complicated. The outbreak is well attested, and people certainly collapsed and suffered, but the precise death toll is debated and not securely documented the way modern records would be. So, forget the clickbait version for a second and picture the real horror. A town watching its people move like they're trapped inside their own bodies. No villain, no monster, just feet on stone, breath turning ragged, faces terrified, and still they can't stop. The city leaders have to respond, and remember, this is 1518. Their medical understanding is not modern medicine. They are working with the best framework they have. One reported view at the time was that the dancers were suffering from a bodily imbalance, described in retellings as something like overheated blood, and that they needed to keep moving until the condition passed. So, Strasbourg makes a decision that sounds insane to us now. They try to manage the outbreak by giving it space. Accounts and later summaries describe authorities establishing places for people to dance and even bringing in musicians, essentially trying to treat the problem by helping the afflicted dance it out. Yes, musicians to a dancing plague. It's like watching someone drown and thinking, maybe they just need a bigger pool. But when you're desperate, you'll try anything that sounds like it might make sense. For a moment, it probably felt logical. If the body is forcing them to dance, then maybe we help them finish whatever this is. Except that decision has an obvious problem. When you build a stage for madness, you can accidentally invite the whole town to watch and join. Eventually, the explanation shifts. What if this isn't just physical? What if it's spiritual? In the cultural world of late medieval and early modern Europe, the outbreaks of uncontrolled movement had associations with religious ideas and saintly intervention in popular belief, especially around figures like Saint Vitus in the broader tradition of dancing manias. So the response becomes part medical, part religious. The community looks for meaning, for cause, for punishment, for relief. And then, after weeks, the outbreak fades as mysteriously as it began, lasting roughly through July into September in many tellings. Hundreds of people had been pulled into the same nightmare. And then one day, the town is quiet again. But nobody forgets what they saw. So what caused it? Let's go through the main theories you'll hear, and the ones historians argue fit best. First, ergot poisoning. Ergot is a fungus that can contaminate grains like rye and produce toxins that can affect the body and mind. That's why you'll sometimes hear bad bread as the explanation. But there's a major issue. Many scholars argue ergotism doesn't neatly explain people dancing for days, and it doesn't match the pattern of these outbreaks well. Second, a conventional neurological illness. People have suggested conditions that cause involuntary movement, but these don't easily explain why the behavior appears to spread through a community like a social wave. Third, and the explanation many modern researchers consider most plausible, mass psychogenic illness shaped by extreme stress and cultural belief. In other words, the region is under intense strain. Hunger, fear, disease, instability. People already believe invisible forces can punish bodies. They witness one person break, then another, and fear becomes contagious. Not because everyone is pretending, because humans are social creatures. We sync emotions, we mirror panic, we absorb expectation, and under the right pressure, the body can express what the mind can't process. Think of it like this. Stress is the spark, belief is the fuel, and a crowd is the oxygen. Here's why this story still hits so hard. Because it's not just people dancing. It's a community under pressure so severe that suffering finds a bizarre outlet. A town screaming, without words. And if you think we're immune today, ask yourself, how often does stress spread through groups? How often do people copy fear, copy outrage, copy panic, without even realizing it. Strasbourg's dancing plague isn't just a medieval mystery. It's a reminder that humans don't only catch diseases. Sometimes we catch each other. If you want more true stories where history feels like horror, you're in the right place. And tell me in the comments, if you were in Strasbourg in 1518, would you have treated this like a sickness or a curse? Either way, you're living in the scariest part of the story.